All right. Hello, everybody. Good day, Mr. Craig. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the Black Future Month, the third annual. Happy to say we are on the third annual Black Future Month event. We are going to be doing a roundtable today. I'm very excited to have our esteemed guests as well as all of you watching today. But first, before we get into that, I just want to give a little introduction to Black Future Month and what we're doing here. Um, so this is hosted by the Institute of Melanated Innovation. And really what we're trying to do here is increase the access to Black Studies courses and experiences for K through 12 youth and community members, as well as serve as a think tank and research center focused on solving problems and improving the life within the Black communities. That's what we're about. So some of the components of IMI are on-demand courses. We have tons of courses available. We have free live events, just like the one we're hosting right now. And we have an incubator accelerator program for folks who want to start their own businesses. So we're really trying to make sure that we're serving the community from all aspects. So we do have a couple of membership choices. We have the all access pass where you get access to everything, all the courses, all of the events, all of the wonderful things we have to offer. We also have Play Black Wall Street Academy for youngsters who want to get their business started. And then we also have Black Study Snacks, which are really bite-sized little nuggets, little courses where you can learn about, people like Mansa Musa, Queen Khalifa, a whole bunch of great Black figures that we really all should be knowing about. So definitely make sure you check out imifoundation.com, and you can find us on Instagram as well as at IMI Black Studies. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, so we are on week 3 of Black Future Month. Week 1, we had a Black Health Roundtable that was actually facilitated by myself, Sinclair Walker, and my health practice Queen to Queen. We also, week 2, had, and that was just last week, we had a fantastic Black Education Roundtable hosted by a great panel of Black men, and they just really went into some great information there. And that was hosted by 3BD Consulting. Definitely make sure you go back and check out those recordings. But this week, we are talking about Black wealth. This is the Black Wealth Roundtable. We all know how important Black wealth is. We have so many people, especially our esteemed guests out here that are, out here trying to educate folks and trying to close the wealth gap. So we're going to be talking about so much today. Make sure you put in all of your questions and comments. But today's session is hosted by Fire Your Boss. We're just super excited. And next session is next week. We're going to be hosting a Black Love Roundtable. So make sure you also check out that. And that's going to be hosted by the M4 Show, the Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making. All right. I think I've said enough. I think I've talked enough. I am going to go ahead and pass it off for our roundtable to our host, Mr. Josiah Greer from Fire Your Boss.
All right. Thank you so much for that, the warm introduction there. Hello, everybody that's out there watching. My name is Josiah Damaris Greer. I wear many different hats, so depending on, where you see me, I might have a different specific title that I'm introducing myself as. But for today, my hat is I'm an entrepreneur, a motivational speaker, and really just someone who loves the community that I tend to work with. My goal is to make sure that, I leave this world a little bit better than it was when I first got here. And today, we're talking about, I also had a facilitator where we're talking about Black wealth, and it's very, very important. So I do want to bring up my co-panelists here, if you may, to give yourself an introduction as well, if you can.
I absolutely can, Josiah. I feel honored to be here with you today, especially after that educational panel that I saw you on, my brother. So thank you for facilitating. Thank you, IMI and Play Black Wall Street for having me. Thank you, everyone that's here. My name is Carmelita Turner. I'm fondly known as the realest realtor to my podcast listeners over there, Josiah on Anchor and Spotify. Because they know that I keep it factual. I bring the real facts. We don't live in the world of fantasy there because I know that there is too much work to do as we recover wealth and then rebuild wealth, because it's a twofold situation that we'll be talking about today. I was an educator for a little over 23 years. I started in the classroom, which, you know, Josiah, that's where the victory lies. I was a countywide administrator, a principal. And then after retiring, I went into real estate. I'm coming up on my 14th year as a licensed practicing realtor in Virginia and Maryland, as well as helping folks in DC. Yes, thank you for that shout out. Thank you. Thank you. And I educate people now in a new way. So I'm an educator for life, but now I educate people on how to build wealth owning dirt and doors, period, and the end. That's my lane. That's what I do. That is how I educate folks. I also serve as an operations and framework strategist for folks, because what we'll get into, Josiah, I know you and I will talk about this soon, but there are levels to this. So, you know, it's a lot bigger than just dirt and doors. And because I am very eclectic like you, Josiah, in all the things that I do and all the experiences that I have, and grateful for all of them, I'm able to bring that knowledge to people that need it to really help them get to that next level. But the position that I am most proud of is that of mom of my 28-year-old daughter, Haley. So thank you for having me today.
No, that's wonderful, wonderful. And really, you touched on a lot of things, and we'll probably come back to those throughout the conversation. But one of the first questions that I kind of want to ask you is, why is and you touched on this a little bit, but could you go in depth a little bit as to why is wealth, really important to you, and how's that kind of shifted your mindset? Maybe, when going through education, it's more about educating the young people about information about the country and what's going on. Like, can you talk a little bit about what wealth is and how it's important to you as a realtor, as a mom, and as an educator?
That's a good question. Almost a loaded one, Josiah, because I think you would agree. I actually don't find those areas mutually exclusive. Without the education, getting to the wealth is impossible.
Right.
So let me say it again.
Right.
Without the education, getting to the wealth ain't gonna happen. All right. So I'm going to just keep it a stack. And so that's why I said I'm an educator for life, because Josiah, you know that there are many things that we do in the capacity of our businesses, what we do as entrepreneurs, things that we are growing and creating, but also for those that we're reaching out to educate. We do a great deal of educating. And that is because it's not because people don't want the knowledge. This is not innate knowledge. So it's a twofold thing, that education is required not only to gain the wealth, but to build the wealth. So why is it important to me? Because to me, education is at my core as a human, as an inquisitive mind, as a voracious reader. But it's also at the core for what I do to build my own personal wealth, because we know, and I know the love panel is next week, but we know that we must start within self first, healing and loving and repairing there, and then starting with our families. And then what happens? That pours out into the community. And here's the funny thing: people would often say, wow, Carmelita, how did you, go from education to real estate? It's a natural progression, because the dirt and doors that surround your schools impact the level in which those schools are able to perform. It impacts the resources that go to those institutions. It impacts the voices that are heard, that impact the books that are taught, the curriculum that they're exposed to. Everything works in tandem. Everyone wants to believe that everything can kind of be isolated, and it cannot. That's why I said there are levels to this. So we have to kind of take that comprehensive look to say that it's the education, that foundation that we need in order to then help people acquire the wealth. But here's the important part, Josiah: hold on to the wealth. In Black communities, wealth is lost within one generation.
Mm.
And that can't keep happening. Education must coexist with wealth building.
I mean, I think that's well said. And I kind of similar perspective. It's just wealth is important to me because I understand how many generations are affected by the lack of it. And just starting from my own families, it's really something that I think that it's what can change the game for the future. When we don't have ownership, when we don't own the things that we live in, own the things that we produce, we own the things that we sell. We constantly are taught to be an employee as opposed to a company or an employer.
That's
And
right.
so, understanding that when you come up with a product, whether it be dirt and doors, or whether it be music, or whether it be even your own body as an athlete, right? When you come
Exactly.
up with a product, you have to remember that you are the owner of this product. And so if the way that America works is that the owner gets paid the most, and then the employees get paid after that. And so I just think that, learning as I go, it's been an important process for me. It's been a very it's it's been a difficult process, a challenging process,
Sure.
because I had to shift my mindset. I had to
There you go.
think like an owner.
Yes.
And sometimes, you know throughout this process, I didn't realize how much goes into being an owner. But that's the beginning wall, right? Like, once you
Hmm.
go after that, it's like how much benefits come with being an owner as well too. So
Yeah.
you get to get that after crack the door open. And so for me, it's
Right.
just really important because, like I mentioned earlier, it's about making this place a little bit better than it was when I first got here. And in my opinion, for myself, for my family, for my legacy, it starts with ownership. It starts with wealth. It
Yes.
starts with
Yes.
knowledge. It starts with information. And I think we talked about this in the last week's session about education. It says, when we lose an elder, a library burns.
A
And so,
library burns. Yes, I
exactly.
remember
And so
that.
it's important to not only to have this information, but to share it, because, especially us as Black people, there's so much information that has gone down the drain, or that's in the graveyard, that we can't dig up, that we cannot
Yeah.
find.
We
And
can't get
so
it
it's
back.
important to give our children, our children's children, and their children an opportunity, a better opportunity to be successful. And so that's why its wealth is important to me, because I understand the generations that are going to be affected by it. But if you could, Carmelita, can you tell us, what are some tangible actions that, in your perspective, that people can take to kind of build the wealth that they have? I mean, because if I can, I feel like wealth first starts in your mind. That's the beginning. And so, how can someone create, what's something tangible that they can do to build that wealth, whether it be in your mind, whether it be in your spirit, or whether it actually be physical, something physically tangible that you can do?
Josiah, you're speaking my language, sir. So let me just say, you're on point for so many reasons, but I'm gonna take it back to the comment, and I believe that last week that was the brother from the blackbookclub.com that said that when we lose a matriarch, a library burns. Let me tell you how big that is to answer Josiah's question. So anything in life, wealth, desires of the heart and the spirit, whatever it is that you want to accomplish, we know starts in the mind. Okay. It manifests here first. And then that's why, for many of us, we understand what it means to believe it before we see it. Because when that mindset shifts, Josiah, which is necessary, and that's why I'm starting there. Without the mindset shift, there is not another step that you nor I will do that matters. Because if someone has a lack mindset, a closed mindset, a poverty mindset, whatever you want to call it, my job, and listen to me clearly, is not to change your mind. I'm not able to do that. What I am able to do is, I'm the realest realtor. I can provide you with the facts, because what did I say at the onset? This is not innate knowledge nor innate behavior. But let me tell you what we do know innately. Innately, our people, we have ways of knowing. It's in our DNA. We do understand. We have ways of knowing. We know, as our matriarchs and patriarchs used to say, something ain't right. Something ain't right. We know when we're
Talk.
missing a, okay? We know when a piece of the information is missing, right? And what did they do? Back then, they did not have nearly the access that we have, but they would get that information because they're going to ask so and so over here who works for so and so over there. And she's going to be like, listen, can you just listen in when they're talking and see what they say and then bring it back to all of us so we can learn? Y'all better miss me. Let me tell you something. Y'all don't want me today. Y'all not ready for me today.
Talk
Because
heavy.
let me tell you, there is no excuse, Josiah. There is no reason when people who had less than we have today did more.
Right.
There's no reason. Okay. So when we talk about tangible things, you already said the number one thing that I was going to offer: change your mindset. Number one, you better stomp up in this world like, yo, this all me right here.
Mm-hmm.
This on me for real. Abundance is mine. There is no one above me. There's no one below me. I'm not better than anyone, but guess what? You're not better than me either.
Right.
If it's here for you, it's here for me as well, because I know what I believe is that it is here for us all. We are all interrelated. We are all here for a purpose. We are all here to love and live and grow. And we are absolutely entitled to that. So that mindset shift has to happen. Then once that mindset shift happens, then you like, hold up, something ain't right, Josiah, something ain't right. So what does that mean? I'm missing some pieces of that puzzle. I'm missing some knowledge, some education. So let me tell you what I'm not going to have y'all out here doing. There are many of people, there loads of them out here with this, let's do it fast. You can do it this way, do it quick.
Right.
Anytime somebody tells you you can do it fast, run, because there is going to have to be some labor before there is some reward. I'm just telling you the facts. And that, folks, is okay. That is okay. But we have to, again, didn't I say we innately have our ways of knowing? You got to go with your gut. You know when something doesn't seem right. You know when someone doesn't seem like, that's not a good fit for me. You know when it just doesn't sound right. It's because you've convinced yourself, well, I'm going to pretend like it sounds right because I want this reward fast, right? Well, guess what? You knew from the beginning that that didn't sound right and you shouldn't have gone that route. So don't come over here crying now when it's like, oh my goodness, oh hala, the I don't know. Now see, now I'm gonna date myself here, Josiah. I was talking to someone the other day about the story Henny Penny. So you youngsters may not remember Henny Penny. Oh Lord,
I
it's a
don't. I
children's
don't. You
book.
got me. You got me.
That's okay. The good thing is we have Rose and Rodney, the adventures of Rose and Rodney for the new generation. Henny Penny was running around the entire book talking about the sky is falling. The sky is falling. And everybody was like, what? Henny, it's okay. The sky's still there. I mean, Henny was so convinced, mindset, so convinced that the sky was falling. She's trying to warn all the folks she loves and cares about. And they're like, hold up, Henny, come on. Now, what's going on? I mean, so much so they started to question themselves, like, wait, is the sky falling?
Hmm.
So finally, when they were able to give Henny Penny, look at the evidence. The sky is, finally, Henny Penny comes around. There are too many things that are distracting us: people, voices, things, overnight gurus, all of these people. If it doesn't feel right, it ain't right.
Right.
So get the knowledge and information that you need. So what does that mean? Okay, I'm not going to talk about millionaires. Millionaires now are like saying thousandaires. I'm going to
Right.
talk about billionaires.
Right.
All
There
right,
we
we're talking
go.
about billionaires. We're living in a time where there are more billionaires than ever before in the history of the planet. Unheard of, crazy
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
How do most billionaires get rich? They get rich by asset growing, I'm sorry, appreciating assets. So, what does that mean? An appreciating asset. That means they educated themselves about the asset categories, right? The ways in which you can get something, whether it's my pencil, I tend to be a pencil pen person, and it's going to appreciate, right? That's how they become billionaires. They do that. And what do they say? Wash, rinse, and repeat, right? So they've
Mm-hmm.
educated themselves on What are these appreciating assets? Well, you know my lane, dirt and doors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that's the only lane. I know some of the folks I see in the chat, they do a great deal with investing, with stocks, things of that nature. But you know what they did first? They educated themselves on that.
Right.
This is a long play. This ain't no short play. It's a long play to build wealth, right?
Right.
So the other benefit of understanding about an appreciating asset is that I can then take that appreciation and what Jay-Z used to say, double your money and make it stack. Yeah,
Man.
then I'm gonna go on to the next one. Because if I take that appreciation and I put it on another investment, I number one don't suffer a tax penalty because I haven't gained anything from that appreciation. I've only used it to get my next appreciating asset. You see
Right.
this education coming in right here? But
Mm-hmm.
none of that would matter if I hadn't changed my mindset, Josiah, at the beginning. If I didn't understand that for me to play this game like everybody else, I must educate myself, right? It's levels to this.
Right.
Now, once I start getting all these appreciating assets, what do I now have to do? It is easy to get it, it's hard to keep it, and you must what? Protect it. So you can't protect it if you don't understand. Again, education. How do I protect all of these appreciating assets? I'm gonna date myself again. I remember all the days the insurance man used to come to my grandmama's house. And I know somebody in the chat, my sister, she can confirm. That insurance man would come to my grandmother's house to collect that premium. I think it was every other week. I'm the baby of the family. Let me point that out. But I was so young back then, tender of age. But it was like every other week he's coming to collect this premium, right? Why? Because our matriarchs and patriarchs, they may not have had much. They may not have known much of this wealth game, but they knew enough to say, look, I need to get me some brick and mortar, some dirt and doors. I want to leave that to my people. I know I'm going to need some insurance of some sort. They knew enough to do that much. We have people dying now today, no insurance, no estate plan, hell, no wills. I mean, I get very passionate about this. No will. And let me tell you, a will is okay, but it's not as good as having an estate. And for many different reasons, you can go on my YouTube channel and see everything about probate and estate planning and all of that. But again, this is education. And the thing, Josiah, I think that concerns, well, it used to concern me, and you can probably give me some insight on this. You and I do these panels all the time. We know this information and we have it, right? I want to let me tell you something. We had a wealth panel today. I bought my calculator. Y'all gonna stop playing with me today. I bought my calculator on purpose, right? Now, I just shared with you all backstage that here in the DMV, we are having the Something by the Water Festival, which is hosted by Pharrell. And, many celebrities are here, lots of folks. It's been beautiful. It's been all love. I think it's wonderful, right? They are expecting over 50,000 people to attend this 3-day festival. The average ticket cost was $400. Now, Josiah, you are a learned man. So, with or without this calculator, we already know we in the 8 figures.
Mm-hmm. That's a fact.
Bruh,
It's money.
we're in the 8 figures
Yeah, that's money.
for a music festival, a 3-day music festival. So, you want me to believe that I can at least impact, speak to, find between 5,000 and 10,000 people to listen to our panels, to show up to these types of events, to get this information and change their life. Somebody better tell me what's going on out here. I'm sorry, Josiah, but that's just how I feel.
No, that's real. That's real.
You feel me?
Yeah, yeah. No, I like you're talking truth, and I think the interesting part is it's like, you know, that's just how much money they made from purchasing tickets. That doesn't include food vendors.
Right?
That doesn't
That's right.
include, hotels, for
Correct.
lodging. That doesn't include merchandise. That's
None of
literally
that.
just to attend.
Just tickets.
How much they made, and so it's really interesting. For me, I really think that you touched something that I want to kind of go back on which is not thinking that it's a get rich quick plan.
Yes.
And I think a lot of that comes from or stems from our generation, my generation and younger, specifically with the rise of social media and everything being so instantaneous. You can click on it, you post something right now and you can get a like as soon as you post it, right? Somebody from Asia can comment on it and say, oh, we love your, we love your certain times when I'll do like my wise word Wednesdays, I'll put a hashtag on it, and as soon as I post it, that hashtag generates a comment. So as soon as, so we're so instant, right, where we want that instant gratification that we automatically demand that, or expect that the wealth is going to be instant, and it's not like that. I mean, anything, and you said this earlier, anything that's, if they're telling you it's a get rich quick plan, then it's a scheme and you better run, because getting wealth takes time. You're going to take time, you're going to take money, it's going to cost you time, money, effort, energy, attention, friends, maybe, depending on who you kick it with.
That
It's going to
part.
cost you so much. And so one of the things that I think is very tangible is setting realistic expectations. Now, by realistic, I don't mean not aiming high. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you can aim to be a billionaire, but then go backwards and tell yourself, okay, how do I, in order to be a billionaire, you got to make $100 million 10 times. So how can I make $100 million? In order to do that 100 million, you got to do 10 million 10 times, and you got to go backwards and start to understand, how am I going to make this happen? And you talked about appreciating assets, which is something that our generation, we were kind of kept out of the loop with redlining and with racism and Jim Crow and so many different things, and the Ku Klux Klan. We were kicked out of these appreciating asset opportunities, but it's a new day. I mean, there are so many, and I'm going to, if we can, talk a little bit about, real estate as well. There are so many different options, real estate being one of the main ones. Real estate has made the most millionaires in the country, period.
Correct.
In the history is through real estate. And so, now we're in a time where there are so many different opportunities, so many different programs where you can invest in real estate. And then, like you said, taking that equity, that appreciation, and then using it to invest in again. Whereas to a lot of people, once they, I talk to entrepreneurs quite often. I'll talk to business people, and oftentimes they'll tell me when they got their first check, right, that their first big check, they spent it on something that wasn't for the business. And that's where people mess up, is that when you get your first big payday, you want to show out now because you think it's over, but that's just your first payday. And so there's a huge, regardless of what investment you choose, there's going to be a huge tax at the end of that, and not by the government. I'm just talking about in regards to the penalty of life. There's going to be a tax. If you think about it, and I try to kind of put this in perspective for people, right? If you go to a basketball camp, right, for any type of sport, you go to a basketball camp, right, and you practice for that weekend. It's great, but that doesn't mean you don't need to practice anymore because you went to the basketball camp and you were the star of the camp. No,
Ask
that
Steph
means,
Curry about it.
you know what I'm saying? That means you need to keep practicing because there are people who saw how good you were. So now you are the standard. And so they're practicing even harder to get to where you were. So if you stay there, you're now going to become average. Whereas to before, you were the leader, you were the star. And so it's the same thing when you talk about investing in yourself or investing in appreciating assets. When you get to that moment where you get that appreciation, now's not the time to stop and say, I did it, celebrate, raise my hands. No, now's the time to dig deeper in, right, and to invest even more so that way you can become better. So when I talk about setting realistic expectations, it means understanding that if you want to get to $1 billion, it may take 40 years. But that doesn't
Of
mean
course.
that you stop after 5. It doesn't mean that after 10 years, if you've only gotten $100,000, that means that $1 billion's not possible. No. That means that $100,000 is what you're going to use to still get to the billion. Because it's once you've got from 0 to 100,000. You may not realize it, but it's easier for you now to get from 100,000 to $1 billion because you know the process of starting from nothing to going to 100,000. That's a huge percentage increase. And so it's just setting realistic expectations. How much time should I invest in myself into reading about learning about whatever it is I'm trying to get into?
Education.
How many friends, that am I talking to or am I hanging around are actually invested in the same type of quality that I'm invested in,
That's right.
right? Because if you kick, I think we talked about this last week. If you kick it with five people who ain't about nothing, you're gonna be the sixth person. But if you kick it with
Okay.
five people who have a billionaire mindset, right? Who understand I want to be the best of the best that there
Of
is, then
course.
you're most likely going to be the sixth person. So honestly,
And
you
there
were
and yeah, well, they and I that's what I said. I knew you after hearing you last week. You all touched on a great deal of these things, and I mean, I think we always hear this: success leaves clues. We know that is true, but you're exactly right. Those realistic expectations and trust in the process. Part of that process, the education. You should be, billionaires, millionaires. They are reading something every day, and I struggle with I always like to share. I live my life through music and books, so you may hear a lot of those references. I struggled today on which book I wanted to recommend to the audience, but and I know some of those. Oh, thank you to my sister, Mr. Monk. That was the insurance man, Gina. Thank you for reminding me of that. Oh, Mr. Monk, he came for that premium. The Black Tax by Sean Rochester. You pointed on something, Josiah, when you were talking about just the many appreciation asset classes that blacks have been historically denied from due to policy, due to different types of practices, redlining. So this book, and actually the subtitle is "The Cost of Being Black in America." So I struggle with what I was going to recommend. I always like to leave people with something to read, but that book will really just abate any argument about the fact, because people, they want to say, oh, well, it's not necessarily about being black. It's not. No, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Go look at again, I'm the realist realtor. I'm only dealing with the facts. Go look at the historical documented facts, okay? And they will clearly show you what it has cost us, the cost to us. My next project, my next book project that I'm going to be starting over the summer, I'm so excited about it, it's called There's No Sacred Ground, and it's going to be looking at and visiting different areas of the country where blacks have historically lost millions of dollars of wealth to their family due to losing land. Because I said there are levels to this. There was no will, there
right.
was no estate plan. There was no one to then do the probate. And then these vultures, as I call them, who know the laws, who know the loopholes, they go in and they take this land basically for the cost of court fees and filing fees, and they build resorts on these lands. It happens time and time and time again, and that is why I said, I when I see over 50,000 people in my neighborhood coming to an event, which I love. I'm not criticizing that, because I do love when we can commune and meet, spirit to spirit. I love those things. But I want to see those many people coming out to a wealth panel or
Right.
coming out to a discussion on how do we heal as a people? How do we love each other better? And I know we're going to talk about that next week on the love panel, but also how do we connect more? How do we educate ourselves more? Okay. So, all of these things, wealth is not an isolated thing. It's so many parts that feed into it. But because we are all able to deliver the different parts, it's so imperative that panels like this exist so that all of the parts can come together and people can find the information in that one spot. But guess what? Us providing this information means nothing without the right mindset and without folks executing.
Well
And
said.
those are the facts.
Well said. Well said. So, in regards to, appreciating assets and things like that, do you think that it's important that every family owns or has a business or a nonprofit, an LLC or a 501c3? What do you think that this is something that every family should have?
So, as I say on my podcast, my superpower, Josiah, is that I can relate everything to real estate. So, my answer to that is yes, and I'll tell you why. Again, dirt and doors, something you can put your toes in and feel, or something you can put your hand on and open. For me, again, this is the lane in which I occupy. Now, what does that mean? That means that many times I teach people and encourage them that when you are purchasing properties, and notice I say that with an S because you should purchase many of them. Those are going either into a family trust or some type of estate, or you have an LLC for each property. So to answer your question, yes, they should. Whether they are using it for real property assets or whether they are using it for investment, they could be doing things on the NASDAQ, on NYSE, New York Stock Exchange. Doesn't matter, but it's going to be feeding this you know uh S corp or this LLC or this family. It's going to be feeding that, right? So everything that we're doing, because we're talking about wealth building, and here's what wealth building cannot be: individual.
Mm.
The Warriors didn't win that game just because of Steph Curry.
Talk heavy.
Okay. So therefore, yes, every family should be. And you know what else they should be doing, Josiah? Having family meetings, sitting down and discuss. See, here again. Now where we going with this? Healing, mindset, right? Change. You said that this generation, and I'm the mom of a 28-year-old. I know I don't look it, boo, but I am. So here's the
You
thing.
look 28 yourself. So
Thank you, Josiah. I knew I liked you the first time I saw you, Josiah. But here's the reality: it is an instant society for those folks. But I even make her slow down and talk to her mama
Mm.
because we've got to get back to our ways of knowing. I don't know how many of you know of Nubia and Professor Karen Hunter and Dr. Gregory Carr. I love them so much. And Dr. Carr, who's right here at Howard, here in DC, he talks about our ways of knowing frequently. We've gotten away from that. We have to still ourselves sometimes to show up for panels like this. We were talking about this behind the scenes. Sometimes we got to go somewhere and sit down.
Right.
And just be still to think, to hear, to read, to learn, to shift mindsets, and to gird ourselves for the battle.
Right.
It's a battle. We must rest our minds, our bodies, our spirits, feed them nourishment, and then go forth and do what we must do to build for our communities, to build for our families. So yes, that was a long answer to say yes, every family should have that. Just yes.
That's well said, and I agree. And the reason I say this is because I think family is your first business.
Come on, sir. Say it,
um,
Josiah. It is.
and so I do think that every family should have that. A business or a nonprofit. I would say a business as opposed to a nonprofit. A nonprofit could be the optional thing, I think. But
Sure.
either one, it's all personal preference. But I do think you should
Personal
have
preference.
at least one because.
Yeah.
Because like I said, your family is your first business. What you're doing is you're training younger versions of yourself to
That's
then
right.
go out and be productive in society. And so I had this wise word I said a couple years ago. I said, you can either build your own dream or somebody else will hire you to build theirs.
Come on.
And so when you're raising children, it's important to talk about business and talk about life as a business. And this is kind of what we teach with the Fire Your Boss team. We tell people, listen, of course we work for with other people, but we don't work for other people. Like
Mm.
I tell people, like, I don't have a boss, I have a supervisor. It's still my decision as to what I choose to do, and then I will be responsible for the consequences for
Correct.
taking the consequences that come with that decision.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
Fire Your Boss is more of a mentality, thinking that you have a boss like you're in a prison, like you don't have a say so in what your
Mm.
future looks like, when in reality you can take control of that, you can take full
That's right.
advantage of that. And so raising children who have a Fire Your Boss mentality, when you a lot of times we're raised to be working men, 9 to 5, 8 to 5 working people, and at the end of the day, what if you had people working for you? Then you
Yeah.
wouldn't have to work. And this kind of
That's
goes
right.
into the next question, is how can real estate be used to build wealth? And I think this is, something that, you're an expertise on. So I'm definitely going to defer to you, but I just want to talk about how that real estate can be an opportunity for you to never have to work again. And when I talk about work, I'm talking about working for someone else, for someone else's dream. You can
Sure.
still work. And if you have a dream,
Of
no matter
course.
what you do, you're gonna work towards that dream. If you have a true
Mhm.
dream. Now, if you just have something that's a wish, it's different. See, you know, my boy, he has this saying where he says, "A goal without a plan is just a wish."
That's
And
right.
so if you have a wish, then you're gonna stop working once you get any little bit of opportunity. But if you have a dream, if you have a goal in mind, then no matter who you work with, no matter what your 9 to 5 is gonna be like, from 5 to 9, you're gonna put in some work, to make
That's
sure that you make sure that that vision or that dream happens. And so I want to talk to you, if I can, or have you talk to the people if you can, about how real estate can be used to build wealth, to build those appreciating assets for the future. I know I touched a little bit about redlining,
Mhm.
and those type of programs, but if you have any information about that too, and how Black people were held from opportunities to be able to gain appreciating assets, if you can. But the main thing
right.
is, can real estate be used to build wealth?
So, actually, as you had said earlier before, it is the number one way to build wealth. Not the only way, just the number one way. So, if I had to bet on something, I'm gonna bet on the number one spot. So, there's that part. So, a lot of people over these past couple of weeks, of course, with the interest rates and inflation and things going on, and a recession and things happening. I referenced Henny Penny earlier about the
Mhm.
sky falling, and there are a lot of things that distract us as a society, right?
Especially my generation, I'm gonna tell you,
Oh,
we distracted like crazy.
yes, yes. But you know what's interesting, Josiah, and that's why I so love watching you all and showing up to support the panels. And I learned from you all as well, because you all are, um, as Frost would say, taking the road less traveled, because we know way leads to way, right? So you all are really doing the work. And you said something earlier, and I kind of chuckled. I tell people, well, yeah, I'm like a 15-year overnight success. I mean, it's like, look, don't get it twisted out here, because
Right,
look, it could be feast or famine in these streets for real.
right,
And
right,
so, but yet our mission is bigger, and our purpose is bigger. So we consistently show up. We consistently bring the message. As you said, we many times wear a lot of different hats. So, it just is what it is. So those systemic things that you reference, whether redlining, even current day discrepancies and discrimination in appraisals,
right,
that's very real. All of these things matter, but the reason real estate is your best bet, like I said, God ain't making more dirt. I say this all the time.
right,
Now I'll check with God after this panel, but God ain't making more dirt. I'm telling you
right,
right now.
right.
So that's why wars are fought over dirt.
Hmm.
Okay, so look, there's a conflict going on now. I don't want to say, but unfortunately, but that's what's it all about? The dirt. It's about the dirt. It's about the resource of the land. If anyone, kingdoms have fallen because of wars over dirt.
Yeah,
That should let you know it is a valuable asset that ain't never going anywhere.
right.
That is why real estate is one of the surefire ways to build wealth. Okay. Now, all of these dis- discriminatory practices that are going on, the way you avoid them, this is why I said stop listening to these online gurus. You find yourself a black realtor. How
Hmm.
about them
Talk,
apples?
talk.
Hello. Okay? Because for some reason, y'all think the water is colder on the other side of the street with people who don't live the experience that you live. You don't seek out black realtors. There are plenty of us out here. I'm not a secret realtor. I've been out here in these streets. You don't know where to find one? Then I guess, go to NARAB, the oldest black realtor association in America. We're not out here hiding. We have to work harder for our own people to seek us out than other people. I'm just keeping it a fact. Now, here's why it matters. Not only do I live in your skin and I experience what you experience, but because I'm behind the scenes, I can fight the battles for you that need to be fought. When I got to challenge that appraisal because it didn't come back right, and I know it didn't come back right, I'm fighting that battle for you. I'm calling a spade a spade. That is what we do. Real estate is a perfect way to start building wealth because we help you buy right. We're not going to, and again, I know every realtor ain't, the same. We're not all made the same, but guess what? Not all people are made the same. What did I say? You have ways of knowing. So the same way you may vet, a caterer or I don't know, someone, you can vet realtors as well. All I'm asking, all I'm asking is find a black realtor. You can vet as many of them as you want. And let me tell you what else I'm asking. And all the entrepreneurs on here know what I mean. Once you find them, stay loyal to them. Let them do their job. Don't try to nickel and dime them. Do you know how valuable the information is that all of these business owners and panelists and people that play black, what, like the value that we bring to folks? Do not come here trying to nickel and dime us because you wouldn't do it anywhere else. Don't come over here with it because we're out here fighting the fight for you. So when you are with a realtor you're comfortable with, they can teach you how to buy right. They're going to educate you. Then you, like you said, that mindset shift has happened. What I start off with is, what is your plan? Let's get an investment plan together for you. Is this going to be just your primary home? Do you want a primary home where you might have an English basement and we can put some traveling nurses in there? Because guess what? That's going to pay your mortgage and give you a profit. Oh, you ain't know that? Y'all ain't
Hmm.
know that?
Right.
Oh, y'all worried about the interest rates? Well, let me tell you something. If you make under a certain amount of money, it doesn't impact you. Oh, they didn't tell you that on the news?
Hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry, Henny Penny. Y'all didn't know that? Probably because you didn't contact a black realtor.
Right.
What were the rates yesterday? Oh, they were five. I think yesterday was 5.75% for Fannie and Freddie money. So that's conforming money. Those are when loans can be sold to Fannie and Freddie Mae. Then there's non-conforming money. That rate yesterday, I didn't check today, Josiah, so I apologize. Yesterday was like 5.125%, right?
Yeah, like
Well, guess
almost six
what?
percent.
Yeah, okay, but guess what? There are people, we have gone through six recessions. Six, okay? During those six recessions, there were only two where house prices fell. Only two. And when they fell, actually in '08, they may have fallen less than 2%. The biggest recession where the value of homes fell was in 2020 during the pandemic or whatever you want to call it. And they rebounded obviously, very well. Okay. And a thing here's what I tell people. Just like our bodies know how to heal themselves, ask the health nerd about that. Our bodies know what to do. Our
Hmm.
bodies know how to heal. We know how to find the herbs of the earth to fortify ourselves, right? Well, so does the daggone market. I'm gonna need y'all to stop listening to all of this drama. The
Right.
market it knows how to correct itself. So this isn't a crash, it is a correction. But you better find a black realtor that knows something about something, who wants to educate you and will fight for you. Stop thinking that the sky is falling because you know what the other folks are doing. They ain't thinking the sky is falling and they're buying up everything out there. So don't be afraid of interest rates going up. There are ways to later refi out of that. We've got people that bought years and years ago. They had locked in at a 10%. They were hella happy for a 4%, a 3%, a 5%.
Right.
But when you're not seeking out people that are going to educate you, you don't know these things.
Yeah.
There are creative things happening all over the place. You can ask a seller to help you out. You can ask the seller, hey, if you really want me to buy this house at full price, can you pay down a point for me? Oh, y'all ain't know that? You ain't know
Right.
that? Maybe
Right.
because you didn't seek out a black realtor.
Right.
You better find somebody that wants to educate you. And yes, real estate is the best way to begin building your wealth, especially when you are using that appreciating asset to then invest in another asset. Stop pulling the equity out of your homes to go get a new car or do stop it. Stop doing that, because when you do that, you pay a capital gains tax. You can invest it into something else, but stop pulling it out, as Josiah said, to go treat yourself. Don't do that. And how do you avoid that? Talk to us. We are here. Let us guide you. There's certain things I will not advise you about, but I know the people that can advise you. So, yes, there are ways. Do not be afraid. But here's the most important way, Josiah, that real estate can help build wealth for you. You got to be prepared.
Right.
Don't come over here calling me. You haven't gotten your credit together. If you need help, I will help you with that. I can
Mm-hmm.
definitely help you. But if you haven't done the things that I told you, what you want me to do? You coming over here battling against people who are ready to put down 20%.
Right.
Okay? Yes, there are programs and things out here, but you have to be as competitive as you can if you ain't coming with 20%.
Right.
And stop being afraid of 20%, because guess what? You can get it as a gift. You can get it from some other, if your parents have a 401k, they can give you the 20% that way. And you can pay. Listen, there are so many ways to do this thing, but you need to seek someone who wants you to win, who wants to educate you about all the ways in which to do this. And my God, I mean, in DC alone, the average house price now in all of our top 10 areas is at 1.1 million. I did check that this morning. Now, how on? I was like, and let me tell you, I had to check it on 3 different platforms, because I was like, that can't be right. 1.1 million, it was right.
Right.
It was right. California is even worse.
Yeah, the Bay Area, man, it's ridiculous out in the
It's
Bay.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it can be done. Just like I said, 50,000 people. You mean to tell me 5 of y'all can't get together, 6 of y'all can't get together, get a duplex, get something, invest in something. Even if it's a single family home that you convert into different units and put traveling nurses in there, things of that nature. And now you're generating money. And then as a group, you all decide, okay, what do we want our LLC to do now with this money? Oh, we're going to buy another property. We're going to buy another. There's so many creative ways, but you got to create that team. Like you said, you got to hang around the right 5 people. And
Yeah.
if you're the biggest fish in your pond, you better get to another pond.
That's
You need
real.
to get to another pond. You need to be swimming with big fish. You need to be swimming with big fish, because big fish, that's how they move. That's
No,
how
that's
big
real.
fish move. So they know if they can't do it alone, they're going to find some other big fish. They're going to do it together until everybody can start amassing that wealth. So, yes, there are numerous ways that real estate, and actually, not only is real estate the one true wealth predictor, it is also the number one stabilization of the family.
Yeah.
So years ago, during the Congressional Black Caucus, the gentleman that wrote The Color of Law was there. I think his last name is Rothstein. And, he was just talking about the data, the statistics, because let me tell y'all something else too in the Black community. Not only, I think Kanye said this, our dollar in the Black community is equal to like the amount of value an apple. So we're the biggest consumers, but guess what? They spend the most amount of money studying us as well. You know why? Because they want our money over there in their community. They want us using our money for things that don't matter to our community. And when Rothstein was talking about how children feel a better sense of security when they have a home to grow up in, their neighborhoods are stable. Y'all, we can gentrify our own neighborhoods, by the way. You do know that, right? We can gentrify our own neighborhoods. That means that we are, cleaning up our neighborhoods, being mindful of our own homes, helping each other out to get those gutters right, to keep the lawns safe, using your vote to get the right people in office to clean out, all of the hindrances in your neighborhoods, to bring in quality food so it's not a food desert. We can gentrify our own neighborhoods, but that is where children feel stable and they soar in school. It all impacts the community. I told you that's my superpower. Real estate impacts everything.
Yeah.
Children are more successful when they have a stable home. I still know my phone number from when I lived at 103 Breezewood Drive in Lynchburg, Virginia. Stop playing. That's my
Mm.
childhood home.
Yeah.
and I still know it today.
No, that's real. That's real. I think you touched on and you said this a couple of times. Where like if you bought a home and you had a little English home as well too, or something ADU, and I just want to talk about a lot of people are kind of panicking because the interest rates are going up, but if you invest in a multi-unit home, the interest rates don't matter because you're not the one paying your mortgage. Your
At
tenants
all.
are. And so,
Come
and
on.
even if you were to refinance and buy another home, right? Let's say if, for instance, let's say you got in at 2.9% and now it's at 6%. And you're like, I'm scared to refinance to buy a multi-unit home because my interest rates are going to go up. You're not paying it. Someone else is paying it.
Someone else
So,
is paying it.
you shouldn't be afraid to still do that investment. And if you
Not at
if you
all.
think that buying real estate is going to devalue at any point, just look at the home that you're in. Go on Redfin, go on Zillow, go on any of these applications and
Yes.
look at the value of the home 10
Right.
years ago, 20 years ago, and you can see
Exactly.
that each and every home, no matter what the market has been like from 20 years ago, they have appreciated in value.
Yes, they will.
And
Yes.
so the chances of it not appreciating in value are very, very slim. Now, obviously, there
Slim
are
to none. Yeah. Of
some
course.
areas, very, very specifically areas, but there's so many different things that you have to be able to account for as to why that very specific area lost value. But
Oh, well, most of the
when you're
time it's for one specific reason because 15 years later down the road, that area is going to look different. So yeah, they look,
exactly, they're trying to get
don't.
everybody out so they can
Okay,
so
yeah,
they
you
can
don't want me
invest
to tell you
in.
what it is. That's why I said y'all ain't ready for me today. I already
Right,
know what it is, bruh. So
right.
yeah, that is all by design. So when I am an analyst. I study trends and research. I love this stuff. And so once you avail yourself to this information, you know what those trends mean. You know
Right.
what it is. So
Hmm.
that's why you got to get in this game and play it like it's being played. Let me
Right.
tell you, when I also you said a couple things as far as multifamily that I want to clarify. Make sure that when you are doing a multifamily purchase, that takes a plan too. When I talk about your investment plan or your investment thesis, you need to have a plan for that and even an exit strategy. Once you have your first multifamily, you're never going to pay a mortgage or rent again in your life, period.
Right.
Period. But it requires a plan, a strategy. There's certain types of insurances that go with that to cover you. There's certain type of strategies. And right now, most of our multifamily folks, I work with a lot of developers and investors now, and
Hmm.
most of them um are basically in protect and preserve mode. What does that mean? Rental rates are going sky high. If all of their multifamilies are leased, locked in and leased at this point, they want to protect that wonderful relationship they have with those tenants, and they want to preserve that so we can ride this out. So
Hmm.
that means they want to keep these folks here because turnover at a time like this, you don't want it. You
Right.
don't want it. So protect and preserve. How do we know to advise them of that? Because we do this in real life.
Right.
So we know how to advise folks. We know how to help people get through this. And so, it's not and like I said, real estate never stops. Everyone's like, "Oh, how's the market?" What you mean? Real estate don't ever stop.
Right.
Chick-fil-A might be closed on Sunday, but real estate ain't. I'm
Yeah.
trying to tell you, we open on holidays too. Real estate never stops. People never
Hmm.
stop buying real estate. And you would be so surprised when I talk about these battles and you talk about redlining. There are times when, I may have a client that's closing. We're in the midst of doing the title work. And many times I will even go to the courthouse just to look at title work. And you will still see covenants in these titles that will
Hmm.
say, do not sell to black people.
Correct. That's
Well,
correct.
really, most of the time it says negroid or nigga people. Like I'm just telling you the
Yeah. That's
facts,
that's the
right?
word. That's the language they use. Yeah.
That's the language. And if you do not force that title company on behalf of your client to fix that in that moment in time, that's going to be on your client's title the entire time they own that home. So if they're passing that on to children, we're talking about building wealth here. We want them to keep this home. We want them to pass this home on. So you don't think it matters that you seek out a black realtor that's going to check that language? Because what we're not going to do is have you starting off with the dark shadows of the past covenants on your title, because
Right.
that means something to us too.
Yeah.
That's why this stuff is important. That's
Yeah.
why it's important. Yep.
Yeah, and I think like I mentioned before, the value is going to keep going up. It absolutely is. Now, how fast it depends on the area.
Yeah.
It
Right.
really does.
Right.
But one thing we know is that in 10 years, the value of your home is going to go up.
Yep.
And so
You're
it's
right.
important to utilize that to, again, to pull out that equity, and not to buy a car, not to buy,
Right.
anything that's going to help you individually, but do something with that money that's going to help your future, your generations, by taking that equity and buying, maybe another multifamily home. And it's really easier for you because you have that equity that you really just built just by living in that home. And you can use that to put the 20% down. So now your mortgage payment on your multi-unit home, your multifamily home, is even less than what your original mortgage payment was, because now you've got that PMI taken off, right? And then you still have a tenant that's going to pay that, but now more of that money is coming directly to you as opposed to going towards your interest or going towards your
That's
PMI.
right.
So
That's
so
right.
you really, when we talk about owning real estate, it's going to be a long-term game. It's not something that's
Correct.
going to make you hundreds of thousands in 2 years or 3 years. We're talking about 10. And think about this: when people sign mortgages, those mortgages are 30-year mortgages, 40-year mortgages. Why? Because they understand it's a long game, right? So
Right.
just think of it like that when you're talking about, investing in yourself. This has got to be a 30-40 year plan, right? And that's where, a lot of the gains are going to be. But can we talk about, I know you talked about this as well too, can you just go back into the importance of having a will or having a trust? The will is where you're able to say, this is where I want my assets to be allocated to, should
Mhm.
anything happen to me. Because one thing that's guaranteed is that we all are going to die. That's a fact.
Correct.
You
A
cannot
fact.
avoid it. You may last longer than others, but you absolutely will go down at
Yeah.
some point. And so, you know, not having a will, or not having a trust, and you talk about these vultures that are going to come in and take whatever you didn't specify that you wanted allocated to somewhere else. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of having a will, or a trust?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think we've all even watched this play out in real time, whether we're talking James Brown, Aretha Franklin, Prince. I mean, we could go on and on and on, right? We've seen these things play out in real time, right, for big name folks, but it also happens with everyday folks, right? So there, and this, like I said, another loaded question, but I'm gonna try to be as succinct as possible. There's so many additional wealth building strategies that families are able to build in when they have a plan, right? But again, having a family plan requires communication. It requires sitting down and talking. It requires some healing going on. Because think about it. Most of the time, black folk, we keep no, don't talk about this outside the house. Or we don't want to talk. We
Right.
gotta talk about something somewhere
Preach.
along the line. Because if
Preach.
we're not out here talking to each other, we're not going to solve these issues.
Right.
So when we're talking about whether we have a will is fine. So let me say this. If you have a will, I'm not hating on that. That's fine. That's a wonderful start. And I want to say kudos, congratulations to you. But I'm going to ask you to do a little more because we see every day whether let's just say for some reason, God forbid, you're incapacitated in some way, right? Well, now you need an advance directive, right? So that means, who's making decisions for you while you're in this incapacitated state. um the will is fine, but even with the will, sometimes there's some quirky things where you're going to have to still go through probate. Probate is what we don't want to do, because that's where things, like with a nonprofit, can get away from you. I tell people all the time, nonprofit doesn't mean no profit, but also a nonprofit can vote you out of your own creation, right? We
Hmm.
know this to be true. So
Right.
that's the same thing that can happen when you get into that probate world, right? So you want to take it a little step beyond by having a family trust of sorts, because the trust protects everything from, as my dear friend I see in the chat there, Morgan Holland, the author, it protects it from the outside world, right? But here's what is also important that she talks about. You got to have education to also protect it inside. What does that mean? I have educated my family and all of those who are going to come behind them on, number one, this is how this trust is run. No exception. We have created this charter, and this is the charter for this trust. This is who is allowed to be a part of this trust. Not your girlfriend that you like a whole lot, that y'all been together for 15 years. Well, that doesn't automatically make her a part of the trust.
Right.
We can come up with some procedures for spouses or people that are not part of the bloodline or whatever. But again, that education, you got to talk about it and you have to write it out. That's why these things are important. Everyone has to have whole life insurance policies, right? And who are they being paid out to? The trust. What did I say at the beginning? Black wealth is lost in less than one generation. So that's because there was no guidance that remained. Come on, we lose a matriarch or a patriarch, a library burns. So if there are no instructions left to say, this is how this trust was formed, this is what we're going to do, then what are people going to do? They're going to make their own decisions based on what? Their mindset, Josiah. I don't know how many of you all have ever read What Would the Rockefellers Do? They had a very specific plan for their family trust. The kids had to take classes before they were even able to become part of the trust. This isn't a guarantee. You're not just walking up in here without knowing the culture of this family and this trust. Because as you said, we want this around for generations to come. I remember sitting in a workshop with a lender who she is the 6th generation in her family. When she said that, I looked around the room like, wait, did she say she's the 6th generation? Josiah, I almost fainted because that's unheard of. And it should not be that way. We should hear more people saying, I'm the 5th generation, I'm the 6th generation. We should hear more of that. Her family, not only were they lenders, but they're investors. They have a huge portfolio. We should hear more of that. How do we hear more of that, Josiah? By putting these wills and trusts in place and these charters, this educational component. That's why I said education and wealth must coexist to educate anyone that's part of that trust on how this thing is to go.
Right. No, I think that's definitely, real. The next question that we have is, how do we teach our youth about wealth building early? And I think you kind of touched on it as well, similar to how the Rockefellers do, right? They teach them young, they talk to them about it. But, you touched on this a little bit more, is we have to be willing to have the conversation. It's interesting because I didn't find out, how much my mom made until I was filling out FAFSA,
wow,
for college.
Look at that.
That was when I found out how much she made. We don't necessarily talk about, finances in the Black community. We don't talk about it amongst our friends because it's almost like well, don't tell them how much we make because we don't want them to know. And it's like, no, but we have to, we have to have these conversations. And sometimes I will say it's been a challenge for me as well too, because on one end, I am very humble in a sense because, I don't like to make it seem like as if I'm bragging, but on the other end, I know how dope I am. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mind it if I play myself down, but I don't like it when somebody else play myself down. I'm like, hold on, you gonna respect the work that I put in. You put in 15 years, they gonna respect it. You know what I'm saying? But it really starts with having a conversation. And for me, like I purchased a multi-unit property almost 2 years ago, and
good for you.
I'm just now starting to tell people that I have it, and part of that is because one, I wasn't even sure if I was going to keep it based on the way things have happened in my family, based on, Black people, how, the struggle, like for the longest, I was like, am I going to go to jail, like for having the property? Like, I don't understand, like what's, you just don't know. And that's just due to not healing. And you talked about this before, the trauma, that comes from generational things that have happened, things that like, I may not even really have to worry about, but it's in my bloodlines, that we've had to worry about police beatings and shootings and communities robbing each other and things like that. And so, it starts with having the conversation and being vulnerable enough to say, hey, listen, this is what I did. This is how much it made me. And this is how much it cost. Right. Because oftentimes when people like when I'm on social media, I'll see someone say this person, gets $100,000 a year off of in profit or not a profit. It'll say this person made $100,000 a year off vending machines, but it doesn't say how much they made in profit. It just says they made $100,000. But how much did it cost you to purchase all those vending machines? What about the gas that it takes to go refill up those vending machines, restocking those vending machines, right? So we have to have an open and honest conversation with our youth about how much it's going to cost. Because a lot of times the youth only pay attention to how much is it going to make. Right. But just because you made that much doesn't mean you take home that much. Right. What about the cost? I'm going through renovations at this point right now. And I'm telling you, every time I turn around, there's more money that needs to be spent. Every time. It's more money.
I'm not going to put you on the spot. I'm not going to ask you if you use the Black realtor or not. But holding costs are real, my brother. Holding costs are real. So I'm gonna tell you what I know, bro. So
it's okay, right?
It's okay.
But the thing is, we have to be willing to have that conversation to say, listen, however much you think it's going to cost you to renovate, add another 10,000.
Yes. You gotta have that cushion. You better. And on top of that. And I didn't, so let me say something to you, my brother. It ain't bragging if they asked you the question. So that's number one. Okay. Yeah. So number two, I didn't say this in my intro, but of the many things that I am, all of which I've done to be a better service to my clients, I'm also a certified kitchen and bath designer. So yes, I can actually draw out all of those renderings and things for people. So when you're talking about your multifamily, people also have to understand you're impacted by cost of lumber. You're impacted by the delays on appliances right now. You're impacted by, these are all things that you have to think about, when you definitely get into that arena. You also mentioned about multifamily and not having to worry about the interest costs, things of that nature. Well, let me tell you what else you don't have to worry about. If you are buying something that's 3 units or more, you also don't have to worry about them looking at your financial profile per se, because what they're looking at is what that property is going to generate. You understand? Right. So you have to, now let me say, that's not giving you a get out of jail free card as far as being responsible and aware of, of your credit profile. That's not what Carmelita's in here saying, gentlemen. But it is saying that, again, we've talked about this all day. Educate yourself. Find a Black lender, find a Black realtor, find someone that wants you to win, who will educate you on all these things. I saw a question in the chat about, if you have an investment property and the getting cash flow and then the property decreases in value, it's okay because, like you said, you're still getting cash flow there. There are certain types of insurances that people should have when they have multifamily properties that will cover any loss. Many of the investors that I work with were very lucky throughout the pandemic. Number one, because a large portion of them deal with our wonderful Section 8 tenants. And I say it the way I mean to say it, because our Section 8 tenants are wonderful folks. Don't believe the hype. That they want sanctuary and home and peace and all the good things that home provides like everyone else. So they were able to weather the storm during the pandemic. And then others had specific insurance policies that covered them for that. But if you didn't have a realtor that educated you on those things, then you were one of those homeowners complaining about the fact that, they were potentially going to be losing a lot of their properties because they could not maintain during the pandemic. So Josiah, you're going to be fine, brother.
Oh, yeah. This is the first.
Hey, Rod Jones, welcome.
Hey, guys, thank you so much. Thank you. Hey, Josiah, man, I could chime in right where you left off at, man, in terms of renovations. if you guys just so happen to hear hammers and chainsaws and things of that nature, we're in the process of that right now. So I
Okay.
totally understand. And I really
Love
admire what you guys are bringing to the table, the information and what you're sharing. Sorry for being late, but with
No.
renovations, Josiah, that come a large line of list of honeydews, right? So
Whew, man.
so anyway, thank you guys for inviting me. My name is Rod Jones, founder and principal agent of Blue Horizon Financial and Insurance Services, and what I want to share is never sales for me, right? What I want to share is how we protect our family and how we can create intergenerational legacy and wealth, right, through life insurance. Most people, especially in the Black and brown community, we kind of feel as if that conversation is taboo. Or if we talk about life insurance, we're kind of, we're expected to die, right? Or we're putting a curse on ourselves of some sort. I've actually heard those things, right, from the Black and brown community. But with that said, what I want to make sure is people understand it is so much more than just life insurance, right? How many people around you that are dealing with, adverse circumstances, whether it be kidney failure, strokes, heart attacks, cancer, kidney failure, right? Which I mentioned that already, paralyzation, coma, severe burn, right? Things of that nature, or unfortunately pass away suddenly. And so as we're building our generational wealth through having real estate and properties and things of that nature, in the event that something happens to that person who owns that property, how then does that stuff transition? Here's my next question. Do we have a living trust in place? Right. And so with that said, if we're going to plan, it's all about planning properly, right? Making sure that we have the right solutions in place, not talking to a professional that's about selling you on anything, but sitting down to walk you through the conversation. And so with that said, what I love about this the most is that my son is actually listening in on the conversation. He's 20 years old. He just joined in with the company, just got his license. Lord, no, we need as much help as we can get in this industry. It's an amazing income stream. They always say that, if we're planning, we should have at least 7 streams of income, right? And so with the property that my wife and I just purchased here in Upland, California, a beautiful city, which I actually spoken into existence, right? I used to drive gasoline tankers. And one day I said, man, I delivered right down the street to a gasoline station down the street from our house. And I said, man, I would love to live in Upland. Now look, right? We're on a half acre. If anybody know about California and a half acre, that's a lot of space, right? In California. And so with that said, we have 3 units that we're building out outside on a property that we're going to cash flow that property as well. And that way, this property will be able to pay for itself. And then next year, my son and I, we can go and buy, some land and start and build or grow out of some sort. But it's all about strategic planning. What are we doing with our money today, right? Are we going out buying all the latest, baddest shoes, things of that nature? What are we doing with our money? How, or do we know how to budget, right? Things of that nature. It just starts with the little small things, right? And making sure that we have the proper strategies and plans in place. Sorry, guys, didn't mean to talk so much, but there
you killing the game. That's what they needed to hear, because we said earlier that, one thing that's guaranteed is that you're going to die. It's inevitable. So, being prepared for that by means of life insurance, I can't tell you during these past 2 years. So starting from 2020, I lost 13 people. Wow. 13 people. And only one of them passed from COVID. They all passed. In fact, I was just at a memorial service yesterday for someone who was a coach to our community. He passed away because of a heart attack. So we're guaranteed to go. We don't know when, we don't know how, but we're guaranteed to go. And so we should be prepared for that in some way. And it's like, if you think about it, imagine if your great grandmother or grandparents, if your grandparents and then your parents all had $1 million policy, you would be a millionaire.
You're absolutely correct.
You would be a millionaire, and you would be raising children who were millionaires at birth.
It down, generational wealth.
So I do think that life insurance is something that each and every person should have. And the crazy part is, if you as a parent start life insurance for your child at birth, their life insurance is like $10 a month. You know what I mean? $10, $20 a month. And whereas if they start in their 20s, or if they start in their 30s, we're talking hundreds of dollars a month now. right? So now how does that stop you from being able to purchase other things, because you have to dedicate hundreds of dollars a month to an insurance policy, whereas if your parents started off at birth, now it's not a financial burden, So I appreciate you for coming in and mentioning that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the other things I said, in terms of living trust, right? We also offer a living trust. There are attorney drafted documents online, right? And, if a person has, things that they want to put in place, in terms of, sub trust for children. You think about this. I have one of our agents that is in Georgia. He inherited, unfortunately, his father was murdered, right? And as a result, he inherited a lump sum of money from a payout. And at the age of 18 and getting your hands on all that money, not being inside of venues or forums such as this to educate the community on how money work and the principles of money and things of that nature, he went through the money. So by the time he turned 20 years old, flat broke, right? From the inheritance that he received from his dad, unfortunate demise. And so with that, the living trust will be able to also not only add the trust documents, but it also provides for a doable power of attorney, doable financial power of attorney, doable healthcare power of attorney, as well as sub-trust for children. And it's all encrypted online. And so you can make revisions to that living trust all over the world, no matter where you are. You could be in Guam, for crying out loud, right, on vacation, and little Johnny is at home cutting up. You can go right into that portal and disinherit little Johnny, right? Not saying we want to do that, but I'm just saying, have some kids, right, that, they got to kind of get their act together before they can get some of this money, right? So with that said, it's just so strategic in terms of how we plan. And again, I can't stress enough how it's so much more than just life insurance. You mentioned the kids, for example, at 15 days old, a parent can go and take out a life insurance policy at 15 days old.
15 days. Okay, write that down in the chat. 15 days. You can get a life insurance policy.
So once that child is born, 15 days in this world, breathing on their own, and they're healthy, they can get a life insurance policy. Now, it determines what type of life insurance policy do we want to get. I have grandmothers that are coming to me for life insurance for their newborn grandchildren, and they're getting cash value life insurance, whether it be a participating whole life insurance that build policy dividends and guaranteed growth, or an index universal life. Everybody's hearing about this infinite banking, right? Infinite banking, build your own bank, create your own wealth, right? Things of that nature, utilizing life insurance. The that of our counterparts, right? Let's just say the Asian community, for example, when they get life insurance, they're taking out $3.5 million of coverage because of what Josiah said earlier, is that it's guaranteed. Two things are guaranteed that we say in this industry: taxes and death. Those are two things that are guaranteed. How do we make sure that we place the right things and strategies in place that make sure? Here's another thing that professionals aren't talking about at the table because they're too busy about selling: long-term care. The state of Washington, for example, the state of Washington came up with this legislative plan that the residents had no idea. Somehow they snuck it in on them, right? It's always on the ballot, but we don't read, right? We don't read the ballots to find out what exactly it is that we're voting on. And so give me a thumbs up if I'm talking too much, okay? Or something, or sideways.
No, this is good.
So long-term care planning is a part of the essential building our wealth strategy. If we have a living occurrence, and God forbid tomorrow we wake up and we don't have activities of half of our half of our body function, how then do we go out to go continue to make this money if we must go make this money physically? Does that make sense? Or if we can't sleep and our money's coming in, that means physically we have to make this money. So if we have a situation that happens, right, whether it needs for long-term care, they say the median range of the expense for 1 year of long-term care is $233,000 to be taken care of, whether that's an in-home supportive healthcare service professional coming into your home, or that loved one have to be put into a facility because the family can't take care of them at home. These are the things that people aren't talking about. And so what I'm hoping is that with this type of format that we're discussing today, those that are listening in, place ourselves in a position to have the conversation that matters. The conversation is free. It's absolutely free.
Right.
If the client decide to have a conversation with not only just myself, some of you guys know people who are in this profession, but make sure they're talking about the things that matter. They're too busy trying to make sales and just, get an IUL. Well, IUL is not the one size shop for everyone, right? What if you have student loan debt? Raise your hand if you have student loan debt in the audience, right? You know who you are. Raise your hand if you have student loan debt. What if I can show you how we could cut that debt, mortgage debt, student loan debt, automobile debt, business debt, trucks, cars, boats, whatever debt, we can cut that debt down in a fraction of the time and give your same money that you're putting out paying those bills 2 jobs. The first job is that money is going into an account that's building your cash reserves plus life insurance. The other money is going towards you're paying your regular premium, your regular payments towards your debt. Instead of you getting out of debt with high interest rates of 28%, 24%, which you'll never get out of debt paying the minimums, we show you how to give that same dollar 2 jobs. You use a cash value life insurance, and as the policy grow, we tell you what year to go into your cash value life insurance policy, pull out a loan or withdrawal from the policy, and pay the debt off.
Nice.
And we show you exactly in black and white the time projection that we're going to get you out of debt. So if you're going to get out of debt in 27 years, we can get you out of debt in 9 to 11 years and save you hundreds of thousands of dollars on interest payments over time. So it's more than just life insurance, it's about solution. And here at Blue Horizon Financial Insurance Services, we're solutions driven, not sales driven. And that's how we've been so tremendously blessed.
I love that. Wow.
Yeah. I think something. Yeah. So something you said, it listening to this conversation is free, but the cost of ignorance is high. Correct. You know what I'm saying? Like you can join into the conversation and listen completely free of charge. Nobody's charging you to be a part of this, but the cost of ignoring this information is going to be high for you and high for future generations in your family. So definitely, I encourage you to take advantage. As we're getting ready to wrap up here, I do want to, if you can, leave the audience just with one final thing that you want to make sure that they leave with. I'll start with Carmelita, if you can. Just what do you want to leave the audience with? What's one thing?
Execute, folks. We show up because this is our purpose, our passion, our mission. This is what we all collectively stand and agree on. We all may be in different lanes, but we bring this information to further the wealth of the community. So please execute. Definitely reach out to folks like Rod, to Josiah, to myself. You can find me. That's me at Call Carmelita on IG. You click on that link in my bio and you can schedule a discovery call with me or anything that you may need. Listen, I know that I'm only licensed in my area. However, I have worked with people all over the country to send them to people like Rod, to Josiah. My network is huge. Whatever you need, call Carmelita. I will help you find it. But please execute. Do something. You don't have to do it all at one time. Do one thing, even if it's to read a book, to go over to Rod's website and learn more about the services that they offer. Do something, but execute.
Wonderful. Rod, what's something you would like to leave the people with?
Man, I would just like to number one, let's get some life insurance, right? Mm-hmm. And again, it's more than just life insurance. Life insurance with living benefits. I just wrote a policy for, I think it was a 26-year-old kid in North Carolina. I'm licensed in about 17 different states. I can be licensed in any state within 2 days. And so with that said, this kid, 26 years old, he's relatively healthy, right? Not the healthiest, but, he's relatively healthy. A $250,000 term life insurance policy, $23 a month with living benefits. That means that if that person had a stroke, heart attack, cancer, kidney failure, paralyzation, coma, severe burn, right? Any of those things were to happen in a tragic accident and can't function, right? Paralyzed. We can file a claim on behalf of that person's life insurance policy and get them a payout. So our community needs to make sure that we have the kitchen table conversation with our family that matters, right? Get some life insurance. I don't care if it's a term life insurance policy, $23 a month, $250,000, right? $100,000 policy, $13 to $18 a month. Come on now, right? We can get some life insurance. So get some life insurance, have the discussion with someone that's not focused on sales and focused on your solution, providing a solution to your problem. Let's get the family taken care of, people. Let's get it. Let's build our generational wealth.
Well said. Well said. Um, if I can, I think one thing I'll leave the people with is fire your boss. I'm talking about the mentality. Understanding that there's many ways to get to the destination that you want to get to. I talk about, think of it like as if you're on the road to success, right? Or like if I want to go to LA, I can fly, I can drive, I could take the bus, I could take the train, I could take a taxi, or Uber. There's so many different ways to get to LA from Northern California. And it's the same thing with success. You have to fire your boss mentality, as in you do not have to. The only way to get to success isn't just by working for someone else for 50 years and then hoping that after 50 years, you're going to get 10 to 20 years of success or happiness. That's not the only way. There's so many different ways that you can be successful through real estate, through life insurance, or through owning your own company, right? Through being a business owner, starting a nonprofit. There are so many different ways that you can be successful. So when we talk about firing your boss, I'm talking about getting a new perspective of what it means to be successful and how to get there. I'm talking about getting a new mentality that we're going to change future generations, that we're going to grow. We're going to make sure that we are developing wealth, not only by physical means, but also by the mental. We're allowing ourselves to be wealthy mentally by constantly, like Carmelita suggested, constantly finding new material to read that's going to help develop you. She talked about healing, right? You have to heal from within so that you can be open and receptive to the information that you're going to get from reading. Because if you're not open, if you haven't healed, when you read that information, you're going to get triggered and you're not going to be ready. So understanding that it starts with the mentality. Fire your boss, get your head right. And when you do that, you can become or be prepared to become a more successful and a better you. So I want to say thank you to everyone for taking the opportunity to tune in, to join into this live. I am going to turn it back over to our hosts or our original host, the people who are putting this program on through the IMI Black the Academy. And I definitely want to make sure that I shout out Devon and Sinclair from Play Black Wall Street. You all are doing some amazing things. I know I touched on this last week. Oftentimes our great legends don't get the flowers that they deserve while they're here. So I'm trying to give you some flowers right now. You both are amazing. You do so much great work. And I pray that you all are given the opportunity to shine like you do, like you deserve. Because, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. When I was watching Earn Your Leisure and I saw the Play Black Wall Street, the board game sitting in the background, I got excited. I screamed. I say, y'all on your leisure, y'all go there, because y'all are doing, you're changing generations. I buy your games and give it out as gifts to people. You know what I mean? Because the hat, what I'm saying? The ownership hat. I want to let y'all know that I support y'all. I support what y'all are doing. You're doing some amazing things. And so thank you just for giving us the opportunity to have the conversation. So when y'all become big time, I'm going to be able to say, I used to host events for them back in the day. You know what I'm saying? I actually know them.
Like you're already big time to me.
Exactly. Gratitude. And I know that Rod and I both concur, Josiah.
Thank you. So Sinclair, you're more than welcome to take it away if you want to close it out or have any closing remarks.
Hear me? All right. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right. Man, this was such a powerful, powerful conversation. And before I go further, I do just want to say thank you so much, for the wonderful words. And, we both are just very passionate about this work. So just to see others, the passion that others have for this work, it just makes it all worth it. And we're just the vessels to provide this information to the community. So I appreciate each and every one of you for being on this panel today. Each of you shared some nuggets, some bars. Like, man, hopefully every single person watching this was able to take some notes, take something away from this. So right, the kind of the main three things that I took away was, one, real estate being the number one way to build your, not the only way, but the number one way to build wealth. We talked about the importance of having a will at minimum, but really the living trust is so important for our families to have, to pass down that wealth, because you can do all the work now while you're here, but if it's not passed down to the future generations, then what was it really all for? And then number three, the importance of life insurance. It's not talked about enough in our community. And thank you, Mr. Rod Jones, for bringing that to the conversation, because it is so very important. So thank you all again for joining for hosting and joining the panel. I do have a couple closing remarks regarding, the hosting organization here, which is IMI, or Institute of Melanated Innovation. And just to remind you all what we're about, we are here to increase the access to Black Studies courses and experiences for K through 12 youth and community members, and to serve as a think tank and research center focused on solving problems and improving life within the Black communities, the problems that we talked about on this panel here today. So some of the components here, we've got on-demand courses. We've got so many courses on powerful Black figures that everybody should be learning about, how to start a business, you name it, we've got it. We've got free live events, just like these panels that we've been hosting for Black Future Month. And then we also have incubator and accelerator programs for those who want to start their business. So definitely make sure you tap into these resources. We have ones that are, oh, thank you. Membership choices. Perfect segue there. We've got All Access Pass, where you can get access to everything we have to offer. We've got Play Black Wall Street Academy for those who want to learn how to start your business. If you're like, this is great information, I want to start a business to build my wealth, start building your wealth, Play Black Wall Street Academy is a great place to start. And then we've also got Black Study Snacks. They're little bite-sized courses that you can take, videos that you can watch that really help you just broaden your knowledge. Wealth is not only about money, it's about the education. That's what we open this conversation with. Make sure you have the right education. So we're concluding the third week of Black Future Month with the Black Wealth Roundtable. Thank you, Fire Your Boss and Josiah Greer, for hosting again. Next week, we've got the Black Love Roundtable, and myself, as well as the wonderful Devon Walker, from hosts of the M4 show, Melanated Married Millionaires in the Making. We are going to be hosting the Black Love Roundtable. All right, so we're going to finish off by just talking about how we can not only love ourselves, love our sisters and brothers, love our community as a whole, and, even the romantic relationships. We're going to talk about all of that. So definitely make sure you tune in next weekend for the last Black Roundtable for Black Future Month. So again, thank you for joining the third annual Black Future Month Roundtable on Wealth. It was a pleasure, being a part of this panel. I even took some notes over here. So hopefully you all got something very, very tangible from it. So thank you all. Wherever you're watching this, I hope you stay healthy, stay wealthy, and stay true to yourself. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.